All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we have more accusations about Terence Crawford and some gloves. I'm going to talk about this video. I'm going to talk about this subject in this video, but I'm telling you right now, man, there's a lot of crying over spilt milk, and it's a little too late for y'all to be complaining now. Let's talk about what they're saying about Terence Crawford in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be talking about Terence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, and a rising tide of accusations about cheating and doing nefarious things in the fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. And I am here to tell you right now, you're not going to hear a lot of crying on my side. However, we will talk about what they're saying and point out how mighty convenient it is for certain people to be pointing at it when they had nothing to say beforehand. Now, before I get into the details, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much for what you do for the channel. It really makes a huge difference. So I'm going to talk about two things in this video. One, I'm going to talk about this newly arising accusations about Terence Crawford and his gloves during the Canelo Alvarez fight. But I'm also going to, at the tail end of the video, talk about Tom Brown and the PBC's support. Well, Tom Brown, who is associated with the PBC, his support of the Muhammad Ali Revival Act, which is ultimately going to gut all of the protections that fighters currently have. So let's get into this because, as you know, if you may not have been familiar with, in the lead up to the Terence Crawford Canelo Alvarez fight, on my live streams on Twitter, I was absolutely very vocal about the body's transition that Terence Crawford had made from the time he was fighting Errol Spence to the time he was fighting Canelo Alvarez. I was pointing out that his physique looks very, very big, almost like Terence Crawford hit puberty at the age of 35. If you go back and you look at the picture in that very, very famous back and forth that went between Errol and Terence Crawford. Errol was wearing a red hoodie. Terence Crawford was just wearing like a black hood, a black hat, and regular sweatshirt. And you go back and look at that picture. Look at how Terence Crawford looked at that point in time, which was probably 3 years before he fought Errol Spence. And look at what he looked like when he's walking around before the Canelo Alvarez fight. I'm telling you, it's literally night and day. So I pointed out things about, hey, man, how is this going on with Snack? And other people did as well. There's a guy named Manager Marty that did a lot of work on it. Other person named 2 Cent, great channels, did a lot of work on it. Trust me, I'm not saying that I'm like the leading vocal person on bringing this up. However, I certainly got a lot of heat for having said it on the way into the fight with almost no defense from people on the Canelo Alvarez side. Now, miraculously, once Terence Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez, now these people got all kind of problems with how big Terence Crawford got, but more specifically, they want to bring up issues around his gloves. Now, I had made statements before about Terence Crawford's gloves. Terence Crawford has a history of having issues, strange things taking place with his gloves. In the fight with David Avanesian, his glove, right before Terence Crawford ended the fight with a knockout, his glove literally ripped open at the seams and all kind of padding started flying out in the ring. He was allowed to continue to fight with padding coming out of his gloves. He knocks out David Avenetian almost immediately. Boom, they move on. But then there's also another glove issue that people say came up with the Israel Madmarov fight, where he had to he couldn't use his own gloves, had to use Israel's gloves. Some issue took place with the gloves during that fight. Now, in order to, I have to believe, rebuild the image of Canelo, we're talking about glove issues in the fight with Canelo. But this time, it's because the type of glove that he had would not have been allowed if the fight was not taking place in Vegas. He would not be allowed to use those gloves in other places. There's also conversations about how he potentially would double wrap his hands and make his hands punching harder and all of that, right? Here's my take. Cry me a river and sit on that L. There is, in the sport of boxing, when people point out things about fighters, it's where you say, okay, this doesn't look right to me, this doesn't look right to me. When you say that in a lead up to a fight, nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it because those promoters on both sides are trying to sell that fight. So anything that you say, they're going to come at content creators, fans, media people for reporting things that may damage their ability to sell these fighters in the lead into the fight. But when the fight is over, man, nobody cries corruption more than boxing media and boxing people after the fight is over. So if you didn't have anything to say about Terence Crawford and these things on the way in, don't have anything to say about Terence Crawford and Terence Crawford about these things on the way out. Unless Terence Crawford is proven to have cheated and they sanction him, I don't want to hear anything from the people that use this selective outrage. First of all, Terence Crawford is not the only person, far from the only person in boxing that has things go on in fights that people think are funny. There's all kind of fighters that magically are moving up 4 or 5 weight classes. You got people that can put on like certain fighters like Devin Haney who can put on 25 pounds in one day. That's how much they can, that's how able they are to dehydrate and rehydrate through this sports science that, you know, that people call it on the way in, but they call it cheating on the way out. Let me repeat that. They call it sports science when they see it getting done before the fight, but after the fight, when it takes place, all of a sudden they realize what it is just plain old-fashioned cheating. So not saying that Terence Crawford cheated and not claiming that he cheated, not claiming he's on anything, because, hey, man, he cleared his tests. And, you know, Victor Conte said he cleared his test, so it must be true, right? You know, the Victor Conte that everybody silently sits by and lets run VADA and control drug testing and intimidate and influence drug testing throughout boxing, even though he's probably not even allowed to participate in any other sports with his track record. So anyway, cry me a river on Terence Crawford and any accusations you guys got about that man cheating. I don't want to hear it. I'll hear it from manager Marty. I'll hear it from 2 Cent. I'll hear it from people that have been talking about it for a while and pointing out things like that. That's a cool conversation because those are people that are absolutely observing and talking about it, but not going for it for people that just want a convenient excuse to rebuild a rematch between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Not trying to hear it. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.